Hello, my name is Nanette Whitman-Holmes, and I am a board member with the Bridges Helena Community Connections here in Helena. And our mission, of course, is to engage community organizations to conduct workshops, lectures, personal interactions, and educational opportunities that we can bring to you, the Helena community. We are an organization that offers enrichment services as our gift to the greater Helena area. I am here today with my friend Steve Tichenor, and he is the owner of Snowbird Solutions. He is a local guy from Townsend, Montana. Joined the military, worked a little bit in aviation, joined the Special Forces, and has some combat deployment experience where he was over in Germany. He currently works for the National Guard out at Fort Harrison, doing some operations training. He's also the owner of Snowbird Solutions, which is what we're going to talk with him about today. And Steve, thank you for being here.
Pleasure to
have you.
Be here.
I would just like to have you jump right in. Tell us, first of all, a little bit more about yourself, and then I'm going to ask you some questions about what people need to do if maybe they're leaving over the winter, if they're that Montana snowbird that's headed south. So, welcome.
Thank you. So, Stephen Tichenor, Townsend boy, graduated '87, joined the active duty military, and went into aviation initially, and then I ended up transferring over into the Special Forces. I was a Special Forces communications sergeant, and then later on I progressed as an operations and intel sergeant with the Green Berets. Did that through '99. I got out, took a year break, ended up on the East Coast, and some more Special Forces guys tracked me down and said, hey, why don't you come join the National Guard? So I did, out in Virginia. Subsequently, wasn't long after that 9/11 happened, and then I was right back to work. Have spent time, a couple deployments to Afghanistan since 9/11. I was stationed over in Germany when I was active duty, and spent time in the Bosnia theater, as well as a couple tours to northern Iraq, and more on the humanitarian assistance side of the military with the Kurdish refugees and stuff like that up in the north. So a little bit of exposure on the outside, but ended up back in Montana where my folks lived, brother and a sister, and my brother Mike, he was over in Fort Benton, and now he's down in Arizona. But so we're local. My father was a printer, and some people might know the name. Of course, you know my brother Tim is a piano player, but anyway, so that's more about me.
So tell us a little bit about Snowbird Solutions. How did you come to develop, create, and operate that business?
Well, it started quite a few years back. I, as a military soldier, I was I was gone a lot, and I see the Montana soldiers deploying, and it just always hit me that, who takes care of their homes when they leave? And that's where Snowbird Solutions came about. When I was going to drill, whether it was somebody taking care of my dogs or something, or I had to go to 2-week annual training with the Guard, I was out of the net for a while, and I'd always have somebody come take care of my house for me. And I just started looking around, and nobody was doing it. And so that's kind of how I came up with the idea. And I figured some of my military stuff might, be of assistance when it comes to the security piece of people's homes. And then, I'm in the process of kind of starting a new life with retirement down in the near future. So, so I kicked the program back up a notch, and now I'm going to be taking on pretty much full time until I do actually retire from out there at the fort.
Excellent. Well, that's kind of who our audience is, a lot of recently and actively retired people here in the Helena area. And if maybe someone was looking to leave their home for an extended period of time over the winter, what would some of your specific recommendations be for them for security, for winterizing? What are some of the pitfalls they need to watch out for?
Yeah, that's a real thing, especially in Montana. But I always start with the individual people. Everybody kind of has their own nuances in what they perceive and what they'd like done in their at their homes, etc. But the big thing is make a plan. You've got to start that plan quite a ways out, because when you start putting together your lists of who's going to plow the snow out of your driveway, who's going to fix something, a plumber, electrician, or HVAC person while you're gone, who's going to manage your documents, important things if something were to happen to you while you're not around. So there's a pretty extensive list, and I've kind of made some of the things that a list of important things for people that when they leave. Quickly, Snowbird Solutions is just kind of a mediator between them and their home and their property when they leave. So, and it's just the basics. Cleaning up solicitations, sweep and shovel entries, making sure your doors and windows are locked and secured. There's nobody that's been tampering with anything around your place. There's not rats infesting, your garage. Maybe you got a couple vehicles that need started. Make sure that there's not bees and all that. Faucets are working. Your toilets are working and flushing. Maybe you've got some plants that need to be watered over for a few months. Again, check the alarm system if they have one. There's a lot of little things that people just, that really it's just peace of mind while you're away.
Excellent.
I'm a conduit between them. I don't claim to be an electrician or a plumber by any means, but I certainly know how to treat somebody's home and their things with respect. The big thing is to keep them informed. I'm working on my website right now. It's still under construction, but when it's up and running fully, then those people will have access to all the things that happen with their house.
Excellent.
So I have a checklist that I go down, block. One by one, I take pictures of the deer in their front yard that morning that I'm there. I annotate something that's not working. Let them know if they have somebody particular that they want to come in and fix it. Then I'm just maybe let them in, oversee the project a little bit, and then prep the place, have it prepared and nice when they show up back at home.
Excellent.
So whether it's they have a certain wine that they want in something or whatever, but anyway, so just kind of a little concierge, tough word.
Yes, concierge.
Concierge, there we go. Concierge, on their way back too.
Yeah.
So they'll be able to look at their particular link on the website. Here's what's going on, and then keep them up to date.
Excellent.
And then advise them on some of the things that, potential security type systems, installation, and there's some really good ones out there. And I know that you can get discounts through some of the, like AARP, for instance, can give people discounts for those security systems and things like that. But,
good. So for you, the plan is really important for people, that checklist of items that they might need to watch out for.
That's a fact, yep.
That would be the huge part of it.
Yes.
And you're kind of that service between, say, the snowplow driver and the homeowner. So maybe they don't have to be writing a check every month and
sure.
They still probably have to do that, but
they
have somebody take care of that for them.
Right, and that's it. And I mean, it boils down to even some of your important items. Cancel your newspaper. Make sure that you complete a temporary change of address, so that's up to date. Unplug all your appliances and things that you don't use, because there's still a draw on those. So for your electric bill, that's your washer and dryer, microwave, fridges, TVs, computers that you're not using. Take the ice out of your ice maker. I always suggest that any fridges that aren't being used, unplug those and then just leave them open. Put some baking soda in there or something, just to keep the smell down. But basically, this is all part of your plan. Possibly empty your fridge out, set the thermostat low. I've had clients that, you pour a little bit of the RV antifreeze in the toilets and some of the traps just in case.
Yeah. It is Montana.
It's Montana, and things can, if power goes out and those sorts of things, so you kind of have to have a plan if that happens. And whether it's Snowbird Solutions or your niece or nephew or your children or the neighbor, they've got to be informed on, it's really important to label all your switches, so if something happens, they know right where to go to turn the water off. If there's a broken line, they know right where to go to turn, whatever, on or off. Another thing that is important is to keep them air filters cleaned when you're away, and it's pretty simple, but you don't want to come home and your house is full of dust or mold or whatever, dirt. And then a good list of all those POCs I mentioned earlier. So that's the plumber, the plowing, heating, HVAC. You can buy filters in bulk and have them on standby. Electrician, and then your insurance company. That has to be. People have to know who to call if there is a problem. Aside from you, number one. But here's the insurance. Here's the family. This particular person in the family. And then keep you informed throughout it all. Some of the other things I suggest are, of course, everybody pays their bills online now, so that's kind of a no-brainer. But you want to, whoever's watching your place, you want it to still look lived in, and that's what I suggested. Making sure you keep your driveway plowed or your sidewalk shoveled. In some ordinances, they require that, so you don't want to be getting a letter from your
homeowners association.
Some homeowner association, right?
That's true. And you always hear about the timer on the one lamp that you want.
Sure.
Although that can be a security risk too, I've heard.
Well, I don't necessarily, if it's the same thing going on and off, and that's one of the things that it's easy enough to turn a light on here and a light on there, and once a week make a little change on something.
That's a good idea.
For whoever's watching your home. I mean, it's just when I talk about Snowbird Solutions, it's really just peace of mind while you're away.
Exactly.
And that's it in a nutshell.
Yes. So it's the common sense things that everybody realizes, but it's just not everybody has the list.
Well, right.
That they need to do that.
Yep. And you just it's black and white. It's what Snowbird does, but have that list for whoever it is that's watching your home.
Excellent. And should you have like a contact list that's left in your home somewhere in case there were an emergency, the police or fire responded, they would know
who to contact. Call. Yes.
Excellent.
And or make sure that your neighbor, whoever's watching, has that contact list too immediately.
So
family members, and then heaven forbid that something does happen at your home. Make sure that you secure all your valuable documents and your valuable things from your home. My suggestion is $2,500 and above. If it's jewelry or something like that, make sure you have a good secure spot for it. And then all your important documents, don't leave them in the closet. You want to make sure that somebody has control of those or knows where to find them, and it's been briefed to the person that's watching your place, because heaven forbid, like I said, something happens to you as a traveler, or something happens at your home, there is a fire or something that everybody's aware of the valuable things that are most important to you.
You have given us some great information about the services that Snowbird Solutions give to people. I love the part where you get the home ready for people that are coming back. That's a wonderful service to have. So my next question is, if somebody here in Helena were choosing to stay in their home, maybe they're past that active retirement stage and they're ready just to settle down in one spot here in Helena, and they'd like to age in place for as long as possible. I think that's the goal of everybody. We
Sure.
want to stay home as long as we can. What would be perhaps some of the modifications that you might recommend to a homeowner who wants to stay in their home as long as they can? Maybe to make it more accessible, easier to get around. What are some of the things you might recommend?
Yeah, that's a great question, Annette. I've actually had a situation with my mother, for instance. She 82 years old, and she had this big building, and her home, some rentals. My father passed away. She still had all this property and these things, and so she made the hard decision, because us kids, we have our own lives and we're doing this and that, to be able to help her. Certainly we do, and my sister's very helpful. But so she made the decision to stay at home. She sold her house and property, and then basically in the agreement, sold the rental, sold the big building, and it's now a martial arts place. But she pays rent, and she wants to stay in her home. She has her things. It's one level. She knows where everything's at. And of course, my sister helps. But there's a number of things and that's wonderful for us too, because she's happy. She knows she made a plan. And so, this is something that people need to discuss with their family and or close people. Not everybody has a family that's nearby like my mother does, but a long-term plan. So, and there's a lot of things that includes, of course, with your what you can afford and what you can't, and those sorts of things, and insurance. But so you evaluate your finances, make sure that's going to work. We had a great friend of our family's, my mom's friend. She moved into some assisted living, and she missed her pianos and some of her things, so she ended up going back and getting her own home again, and she's happy. But so evaluate your lifestyle. So you have to, that's transportation's a big one. Your health, of course, where the medical facilities are versus moving someplace else that maybe, things aren't so accessible. And your belongings. I discussed the piano, but I was really fortunate. One of the neat things for my mom is, as she got up older in life, she had a hard time. She couldn't drive, one, because of her eyesight. But we got her one of these little scooters that she can get on and go and rip around the neighborhood and go out and check her flowers and her trees, because she's still on her property. So it gets her outside, and anyway, it's funny because she named it Turbo. But and I tell her, Mom, you got to keep that thing on turtle, not on rabbit. She's like, it was on turtle. But no, yeah, she has a good time. But so on the weather, again, Montana, talk about that. So your sidewalks, snow removal, or maybe you're, someplace where you need to have AC. Do you have it available? As you get older in life, some of those things become, can be tough. What your diet is, so you have to pay attention to that, because, when you're living in your own place, you might have to cook still. Maybe you have meals brought into you or something, but all that has to be accessible. And you have a plan. Maybe you start shifting to stuff that's a little easier to cook versus having a fridge, making steaks. But your George Foreman grills and your stuff, and of course microwave. But keep it simple. If depending on how active you are, if you have a mate to your husband or your wife or something like that. But one of the other things is animals. And I talk about my mom, but she had this darn cat, and that cat was just as playful as could be, but it'd roll right over in front of her and lay there like, scratch me. And well, it turned into a trip hazard for her, and it became somewhat dangerous, because then she was tripping over this cat. So, and that goes with any animals, dogs and things of that nature. You really have to make the hard decision on how you are, what your capabilities are when it comes to not only taking care of yourself, but taking care of your pets, and making sure that your house is safe from the toys. Maybe have a room that they can play in. You let them out to do this or that. And so those are just some of the basics of evaluate your lifestyle. When it comes to making the house safer, there's really a couple different approaches. There's low cost and then there's high cost. High cost, I'll touch on those in a minute, but some of the simple low cost things that it doesn't take much and it's fairly affordable, but your appliances, make sure that you put them within reach. Same with your dishes, pots and pans, your cabinets. Some of the smaller cabinets that are easier. My mom's 5'2". She's not climbing up on a ladder to get something out of the upper cabinet. So things are at reach for her. Make sure that your knives and things are safe in the drawers. You don't want to be reaching in there and grabbing a knife and cutting yourself. Have a nice something nice. Fire extinguishers, know where they're at, and know how to use them, and make sure that they're up to date. Those things. Same with your smoke detectors and carbon monoxide alarms. Just a quick battery, swap them out. Have your son come and do it, or your landlord, whatever situation. But have that list. I keep going back to make a list, make a plan, and use that plan. As far as like other things, the bathrooms, that's a real tough spot for folks that get up. And I know this personally because I was in a four-wheeler accident, and I fractured my pelvis and separated my SI joint. And so I was down for the count for 21 days. I was in assisted living until I could get back on my feet again. And then when I came home, the hospital, they came and assessed my house. And people can get those assessments on their homes through some of the insurance companies and things, because they want you to be safe as well. And I think you can get them free actually. But so your bathrooms, raising and lowering the toilet is a real important one. Having something that you can grab onto and lift yourself off the toilet, or a sink or something, those are really important. Making that transfer if you have a wheelchair or something, those things you have to make safe your bathrooms. The tubs, the walk-in showers are preferred. If you have a tub, they have the stools that you can make a transfer over to get in there safely, which I had to do. And maybe you don't want a shower head that's up here. You can get those shower heads and bring them right down here to where you can grab it out. You can rinse off yourself on a chair inside the shower or your bathtub, and it's much safer than trying to step over one of those things. And I had a total knee replacement last 2 years ago, so again I was down for the count, and I had to, I was taking care of me. And so I found those little things that are difficult for me at 50. I'm 52 now, but I'm fairly healthy, and I have good upper body strength, but not everybody does. So handrails are a big one in your bathroom, in the shower, along the tub, and not just a towel rack. Have somebody come in there,
grab bar
get a grab bar this way or this way, whatever's more comfortable to your hands, depending on how strong your grip is, of course. And that's something that a carpenter can come in and do. It's really relatively inexpensive. You buy a couple things and you can pick out the decor as however you want. Possibly, depending on your vision, make sure that hot water, you don't want to scald yourself. You know which one's the hot, you know which one's the cold. Make sure they're marked well. And then you might not want to crank that water heater up so hot. It's nice to have clean dishes and things of that nature, but you don't want to scald yourself and put yourself in a situation all of a sudden that water's too hot or too cold before you can make an adjustment, or you find yourself slipping and sliding trying to get that thing turned down. Okay, so that's important. Your doors. My mom has poor grip. I bought her, it was kind of a joke, but an oil filter changer for a Christmas gag gift, because she has a hard time opening jars. And ironically, though, it actually works pretty good. But anyway, get rid of the doorknobs, put in a lever handle. It's simple. For her garage, for instance, I put in a new, because she couldn't get that garage door open because it was kind of tight. So that's a quick one. And then you can also get those safe locks too. So if the door is locked on the inside, there's a way to unlock it from the outside. You have to have faith and trust in your family. If something happens to you in that bathroom or a person and you can't get in there, myself, the door is going to get kicked in, because that's how I am. I'm a worry wart that if I don't hear. Yeah. So anyway, we don't want nobody kicking in the door. So just have a way that you can unlock it from the outside. That's a safe thing. Make sure that all your medications are clearly marked. They have the things that you can buy now that comes pre-packed, and you can get that. But having medication here and here and here, my mom's bad at that. She's got some in this cabinet and some in this cabinet. But make sure your family knows your medications too. Your visitors, something. Again, make that list. You really have to be honest and open with whoever, because potentially you might stay in your home and you might want a caregiver to come. So if it's whether it's your son or daughter or child or niece or nephew or a caregiver, all these things have to be legit. Everybody's got to know where your safe stuff is, just like if you're away. So that's that.
I know I've done like fall prevention type programs before, and they've got some. You're talking about checklist earlier. They've got some great checklists that basically are the same ones that you have.
Yeah.
And if anybody's looking for that resource, is that maybe one thing that you might recommend? Look at some of those.
Yeah. I mean, some of this stuff you can pull right off. I mean, if you got a computer, you can pull it off. The internet, you can certainly, AARP I know has a bunch of things that you can access. Probably Touchmark has some things that you can get in there and research and point and click and read through the things and make that checklist. Here, print it out and give it to your person or whoever's going to be there. So they're not missing anything. And just some final low cost things. Your walking surface. Rugs are a real big one. They're a trip hazard. I find myself in my kitchen getting snagged up on occasion, let alone if you have a walker or something like that. You want to make sure that they're secure, or just get rid of them. Your feet are, same within your bathtub. Put the non-skid texture stuff, non-slip tape. It's inexpensive and it's simple to do. Have somebody come in so you're not tripping over a rug or slipping and sliding. And then the big last one, pick up the clutter. Make sure that your plug-ins are put where they're supposed to be. Don't have excess stuff on the floor, shoes and things. Make sure all that's secure in an area that you're not going to trip over them or somebody else is going to trip over them or whatever. That's a lot of the low cost. Some of the higher cost things that for somebody that wants to stay at their homes, it might be worth it if you can afford it. But make an alteration to your shower. Get rid of the bathtub. Put a stand-up shower that you can walk into with the walker. You can roll into with the wheelchair. You can walk into. Get rid of the threshold so you don't have to step over something. But then bathtubs could be really dangerous. Just if you can afford it. Again, this is starting to get up in cost. Move your light switches where they're easier to find. That was another thing too. Lighting is a huge thing in your home. That's a low cost. But get the nice bright LED lights that they have these days. They're easy to install, and make sure that whoever's coming to visit, Steve, can you get that light up there for me? You bet, Mom. And then you swap it out. Thank you. But lighting's big. But if you need
this time of year where it gets so dark
early. Ugh. And that's the Montana thing. And I never, I like the skiing and I like this. I'm not afraid of the snow, but the short days are something that nobody likes. But widen the doorways. Again, if you're in a wheelchair or something. Getting those doorways put in, and it can be a couple $1,000s to put in a new doorway, but it may be worth it in the long haul if you plan on staying at home. The other one that's a really tricky one is people live in older homes. They've got these stairwells, stairs going up. Stairs are a tough one for somebody that's getting a little older. I don't like stairs, but those outside stairs make sure they got good strong rails on them. And you can, if you have concrete steps in the wintertime, those things can, get the salt out there, get those stairways, but consider building a new stairwell off there, maybe a ramp. You can take an existing staircase, 3 or 4 steps up, build over top of it, use that as a foundation, make your steps longer, make them shorter, and tear it down to where it's a lot easier for a person to come up and down the stairs. And it could be costly, but your local carpenter or somebody that call around, hey, this is what I want, spend the money on the materials and labor and have that done. Stairs get a lot of people, and the last thing you want is to be walking into your house at night when it's 6 o'clock after dinner or something, fall down in the cold. You don't want that scenario. So stairs are a tricky one.
Yeah.
And I guess it kind of leads into I hit most of them.
I think so. I mean, those are great ones. Your mom, you said, has her scooter, and so you guys must have a fairly barrier-free entryway.
It is, and I had to build her a little ramp getting in and out of the garage. As she'd go tearing off. I'm like, gosh, Mom.
That is so fun.
But anyway, so into the garage, but it's a nice ramp and just a couple easy stairs onto her back porch and then into the house. So
wonderful.
I did want to just quickly touch on something though.
Sure.
And it has to do with I mentioned the care provider coming in. So there's really some great folks around the community here, and I'm sure that you guys have reached out and found someone. But if you do have a caregiver coming in to your house, make sure you do the proper research on that company. Where they get their training, how are they selected, their background, what can or can't they do? Can they give you meds? Can they give you a bath? Help you with your toiletries? Male, female is a big thing. If you're a large person, that really makes a big difference for home care, because if somebody can't get you off the floor or into your chair or things like that has to be addressed. And just be honest with yourself and your family or whoever about what your needs are going to be, especially if you have special needs.
Exactly, and it is so important to do your homework with.
It is.
What services are you looking for, and is this a person that you want helping you with very intimate things?
Well, that's very important. And like I said, I'm so fortunate to have my sister with help with my mom, and because some of the things, as a son, I'll do whatever I have to do for sure. But my younger brother Tim, I had an aunt that she had a partial stroke. And, he had to go in and take care of her for some time. And, he certainly stepped up to the challenge, and she was so appreciative, of course. But those things are important. Not everybody, has a sibling or somebody in the family that can do that, and maybe have to reach out to a care provider. And that stuff, you really have to do the financial piece on that. Make sure that they know how to handle any emergencies. How are the people paid? Any references, and then how can you contact their supervisors? What sort of a supervision policy do they have, and does that supervisor come and inspect to make sure that they're doing all the proper things that they need? So I just wanted to touch on that.
Yes, that home health is a huge thing.
Yeah, it's important. So.
Yes. Well, excellent. Well, I'm going to segue into the final section that we have here. My last question is, again, kind of going back to Snowbird Solutions there, if someone were looking to downsize and maybe move to a smaller environment, it sounds like your mom went from a larger house to a smaller environment. If somebody were looking to do that, maybe move into a retirement community and assisted living, what would be some of the priorities that they want to keep in mind as they're doing that downsizing that would make it easier for them?
Well, I kind of touched on one of the things in that last segue, as far as picking up the clutter in your home and things like that. If it's that time in the life, in your age when you're getting a little bit older, you really need to start thinking about that, regardless whether you're moving into a smaller place or something. Get rid of this stuff. If you're not using it, don't hoard. I mean, if you haven't used something in however many years, certainly your things of value and things like that, and your vases that are pretty, and you want to hold on to those. That's one thing. But also have a plan for those. If you're going to downsize, hey, maybe it's time to find that niece or nephew or grandson or grandkid or great friend of yours, or a daughter or son, to start getting rid of some of those things. I hate to say that, but you can't take the stuff with you at the end of the day. So again, downsizing, do your research. I talked about a good friend of our family's. She went into a place and then she didn't have the space for her pianos and some of her things, so she moved back. My mom downsized from having a great big shop and worrying about the electric bill and the renters and all that stuff. Sold it all. Hey, I got my house. This is all I have to worry about. I don't have to worry about plowing my driveway. But so those things, do your plan. All this is make a plan. Just talk to people about it. You do your research. What's the cost going to be? How much space does it have? What kind of community amenities are there in these places? And you have to really look at yourself again. What's my lifestyle? What's my health condition? What are the things that are close to my home where I'm at now versus someplace else? So all those things you still want. And maybe if versus living at your home where you have the potential to be isolated, in some cases a community is better because you have the surrounding help and you have people that you can talk to, maybe people the same like mind, hopefully. What's the maintenance going to be like? How is that done? Can you have your pets or not have your pets? That's a tricky one. And we've all got this COVID thing going on. It's a terrible virus. It's hit everybody and it's affecting everybody in these places, communities and retirement homes and assisted living, and that's huge. So if you can't have visitors, or if they haven't figured out a way for your family and friends to come visit you, maybe that's not quite the place that you want to go. How are their employees checked? How's the food service people checked? All these things are very important. Of course, you and I get our COVID tests. I'm a federal employee. I go in and out and the hospitals, and I work out the fort there, back and in and out of the VA facility, and so those things, this is for real. It's not going away anytime soon. So do your homework on these places, and then again, transportation. How do you get around? Can you have your own car there? These sorts of things. So that's talking about downsizing.
And that's one of the things at Touchmark we hear quite a bit, is that you never want to leave your kids. We have an older population there, but our residents always talk about how they don't want to leave their kids to have to sort out all of their things. So your idea to do it ahead of time.
That's
make sure
important.
You know where everything's going to go.
At the end of the day, because not all the time when people, it's good to be strong and have support and the moral support, but there comes a time and a place when maybe you're not hitting on all 8 cylinders. I don't know any other way to put it, but people as they get older, I'm fortunate my mom at 82, she still can remember the kids' names from so-and-so and the people, because they were in the newspaper business for many, many years. So my mom can tell you who was married to who and what, and it's crazy how she can remember all that stuff. I have no idea, but I have a hard time remembering the simple stuff. But she can go back. But that's not the case in all instances. If somebody has to so at some point, what are you going to do with all your stuff? So either you can if you're going to downsize and you're going to move into something smaller, maybe a community or assisted living, and it might not be your choice to move into some of these assisted living, for instance, depending on how your body functions are working and your mental acuity. And so think ahead on that. Again, make that plan. Maybe you want to have an estate sale. Big ranchers and farmers, they've got all these implements and all this stuff out there. It's time to downsize. Hey, let's have an estate sale. Maybe, like in my instance, my father, he got cancer. He passed away. It was on and it was here and gone in 3 weeks. It was just that simple once it was caught up to him, and it got him. And that may be good, but in some cases I think that I was happy that it went fast, but on other cases, sometimes that's not the case, and then you have somebody that's in a medical facility, and here's all these things that eventually are going to have to be. So possibly a estate sale, family, give it to family, and then maybe you're looking good and you just want to downsize and consider a storage facility. You can secure some important things in there. Most all the storage facilities I'm aware of, they have access codes and they're locked and there's cameras on things, and you can put your stuff in storage if you can afford one. And it's still there. It's nice and neat. It's in places that is safe. It's climate controlled. You can get, but it's out of the elements. And then maybe just get a storage unit, and then if you change your mind down the road, all your stuff is still there, and you can move it back into your home. But
did your mom have some priorities when she was moving out of the larger house to a smaller environment? Were there certain things that she said, well, this has to come, but that can stay? Or
yeah, she basically stayed in her home, but all those other things, the shop and stuff, we had a huge garage sale, a couple garage sales. My father had printing equipment, all kinds of presses, all kinds of moldings and casts and all this unique stuff, and we found a home for all of it. My brother, of course, still has some. He had some ink in his blood, and he did some printing in the local area for a while. But the ice boats, hey kids, do you want this stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Mom, I've got drills and I've got hammers and I've got saws and stuff. I don't need it. My sister, no, she's not going to run a workbench. My brother, he's got all the stuff. So we got rid of it, a lot of it, basically. And she prioritized her things, the stuff that was her. A lot of stuff went to Goodwill. A lot of things, if us kids didn't want it, we got rid of it.
Excellent.
And so, and then you still have to think about you. And do these things now, whether you're downsizing or not. The importance of having all your documents and your wills and your powers of attorney and your debts and your assets, all your benefits. This stuff has to be assigned to somebody in your family, whether it's your spouse or whatever. One of your siblings, a good friend of the family, maybe it's a grandchild or something, depending, because I have an 82-year-old mom, and I'm 52, but I've got a 23-year-old daughter and a 21-year-old that's in the military, right? So every time I ever deployed, these were all the things that we had to have in our checklist, because my line of work as a Green Beret for many years, I really put myself in a lot of precarious positions. I didn't put myself there. I volunteered to do it, but then once I was there, it was a profession. But there was plenty of times that the potential for me not coming back were there. So I'm thankful for the Lord that, but that I'm still here. Yeah. But
some good
those
lessons.
Things, those are lessons, lessons learned, and that can happen to any of us. So, and if you're a veteran, you understand those things. I'm a vet, but not everybody's a veteran. Get your affairs in order. that's just so important, and it seems like it gets beating a dead horse over and over, but if it's not done, then you can really have a mess on your hands if you're a sibling or something and something happens to you at some point, between the transition, whether you're at home and you're a little bit older, or you're in assisted living, or you're in downsizing a community. Make sure that you keep all your important things
and having that plan to make sure that there's no family conflicts,
Yep.
because nobody wants to see that.
Make that plan. Everything's make a plan. Make a plan if you're going away for the winter time. Make a plan if you're
downsizing.
If you're downsizing, make a plan.
Yes.
If you're gonna live at home, stay there and live at home.
Excellent.
And then, be cognizant. This isolation stuff. Nobody wants that. So you definitely, just it's so important, this COVID. I just want to touch back on it again. Hopefully, your family can visit you regularly and help take care of everything in your affairs and stuff.
Excellent.
But be honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Be honest with your siblings or your family. Be honest with your mates, man or woman, a husband, wife, however. Be honest with your caretaker. Be honest with yourself. What are your requirements? What can you not do safely? And
I know. I'm going to leave everybody with make those plans.
Yeah,
I think
it.
At any stage that's really important. So, this is Steve Tichenor joining us here for our Bridges program today. And this is great information. And you're working on your website, Snowbird Solutions.
On it. Yep.
So look for that.
I'm in the yellow pages right now.
It's in the yellow pages, so look that up. So we really appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you,
giving us some valuable information. And have a great one.
Yep, thank you. It was a pleasure.